One of the key reasons that a business would choose to implement an ERP is to improve their capability. That is that they want to get better at doing something or lots of things in their organization, which is either going to enable them to make money, make more money, break into new markets, or it could enable them to reduce costs or be more efficient. This is quite a neat visual representation of what a successful ERP implementation actually does. So the business are operating at their current level of capability, and building up to the event, which is the go live of the new ERP, they're looking to, through that investment, achieve a higher level of capability. Now that higher level of capability could be more productivity, more efficiency, it could be breaking into new markets, it could be adding functionality and capability they didn't already have. And in this scenario, what we've got is quite typical. But the point that this quite ably illustrates is that people can be forgiven, the uninitiated in a large ERP implementation, for thinking that on go live day, we immediately achieve the expected level of new capability. It just happens, on day one, magically, we're all operating at this fantastic new level of capability. But for those that have been there and done it before, they appreciate that far from immediately grabbing this new capability, what happens is we actually get less capable as an organization, and then we start to recover from what we're terming capability shock, and then we start to improve in our capability, and then over a period of time that we planned for, we reach that new level of capability and achieve the return on investment for the project. Okay, in this scenario, we're looking at an ERP implementation that isn't going quite so well. So the organization has been approaching their go live event at their current capability. And then following go live, as before, we've seen a drop off in their capability, which is to be expected. But now something's not going quite right. They're not recovering from that drop in capability in the controlled way, in the planned way that they expected to. They expected this to happen, they expected to be challenged, but they didn't expect to not achieve their target capability. And that can start to undermine the confidence in the whole project and the whole initiative, really. And this can manifest itself in a number of ways. They can start to lose trust in change, in the process, trust in the new product. They could start to question whether they should have done it in the first place. And they're fighting, they're struggling, they're having to work hard, and putting a shift in to make it work. You can ask that of people for a controlled period of time. But it's a much greater ask, and probably an unnecessary ask, an unacceptable ask, to ask them to do that for an elongated amount of time, particularly if they can't see the end of that period of really putting a shift in to make it work. That's an unsuccessful ERP implementation. Until we hit that target capability, we're not successful. And the longer that lasts, the longer it takes to get there, and the longer that is different to what the expectations are, the more this ERP implementation is at risk. So at the point of ERP project go live, the amount of resource that we are utilizing in the project is probably at the highest point that it's going to be in your product lifecycle adoption. What you're looking to do is you're looking to retain all the knowledge that you've developed thus far and utilize it to navigate this very intense period post go live, where you're looking to navigate the capability shock and get back to a business as usual type of operation. Now, before you can get back to business as usual, you're going to need to stop relying on that intensive amount of resource that has got you to this point. And preparing for that, preparing the business for that, is critical to being able to reduce the cost of the increased amount of people that are helping you to realize these benefits. Now, if we encounter delays at this point, we're at the most resource hungry part of the project. So delays at this point, even a month's delay, a couple of months delay, is going to cost you far more than any other period in the project. So planning for that, navigating that, enabling those experts that you've relied on to get you to this point, enabling them to be able to step away in a controlled way, because you've got this, you understand the solution, you're adopting it correctly, your business users are stepping up, your internal IT team are stepping up to take this product and run with it. Being able to do that in a period of time that was planned, that was appropriate for the adoption that you've been undertaking, is critical. If you get that delay, and these delays can run and run. I mean, I've heard of projects that are still in hypercare 9 months after go live. All of those resource hungry, expensive experts are still needing to be there in order to help you stabilize that product. And that cost can be significant. So planning for that to make sure you don't incur that cost, that can be far less a drain on the project's resources than actually experiencing that if you haven't planned correctly. When businesses experience a delay in a project, they tend to focus on the project cost, the running cost of the project, as the only cost that they're experiencing to the business in terms of that delay. But there's another cost as well, and that is the cost of the delay to benefits realization. And if you go back to the business case that greenlit the project in the first place, there's a monetary value that the business are looking to realize from increased efficiency, increased productivity, breaking into new markets. Now, when the project's delayed, the time it takes to realize those benefits is actually delayed as well. So not only are we incurring increased project cost by delayed project, but we are experiencing a cost to the business in terms of that delayed realization of opportunity. And in a lot of cases, that cost can be far higher than the cost to run the project itself. So what is good planning? How do you prepare for the capability shock? And I think one of the fundamentals of that is to recognize that this is a business change project. It's not an IT project. Critical to the success of this project is that the people that will be operating the new ERP solution are primed, they're prepared, and they're ready to adopt it. And quite often, the stages that people skip because they see progress as cutting code, they see progress as new functionality, they see the progress as visible in the solution itself. So quite often they rush past some good, appropriate stages, which they're going to save you time, they're going to save you money, and they're going to get you through that capability shock far easier. They rush past those stages because they don't equate those stages with progress. And this progress, this good planning, it could look like communicating with the business. This is why we're planning to do this change. We're going to appeal to business users about what's in it for them, what they can look to gain from this project for themselves, for their function, their department, also for the company as a whole. There might be certain aspects of the company that stand to gain more, initially at least, than others. And they need to appreciate that. They need to understand that. And that's something that we sometimes think about terming, I've got to wear my country before my club hat. I've got to think about the greater good for this organization. And good planning will prepare the business for that. It will prepare them for the changes that they're going to make. It'll provide them time out of their day job to focus on understanding this new target operating model, how they're going to behave in that, how they're going to need to adapt, what training they'll need, who they'll need to train, and perhaps there might even be changes to their role, their function. They'll be doing things they didn't do before, and they'll be stopping doing things that perhaps they even enjoyed and they relied upon. This is a new world that we're moving to. So having a structure to communicate that all to the business so they're prepared to support this IT change and see it as a business change is a business value driver. So the planning will carve out those values. It will show that business value that we're looking to achieve, and it will align the functional, the IT change that we're doing to that value. And we'll start to see this not as an IT project, but as a business value project, a business change project. And the good planning at the start will enable the business to think of it like that. So once an organization has reached that target level of capability, that this bigger, more finite actually project has completed, they're operating in this new level of capability. Now, interestingly, this is where a lot of organizations can make a mistake effectively. What they think is, I've spent a lot of money, I've spent a lot of time, I've invested quite heavily, and I've achieved a new level of capability. So, costs can go down. The amount of focus that I put on this new solution can reduce. And yes, it can to a degree, but what you will see now is that over time, unless we are managing this new situation, unless we are appreciating that through natural change, both in the environment we work in, the demands of our customer, the legal changes required of us of an organization, commercial opportunity to break into new markets, that software that we're using needs to be changed. And our people, they'll get a handle on what they're doing, and they'll come up with new ideas, and they'll want to improve what they do. Now, if the investment in supporting them realizing that has been reduced or gone entirely, what will happen is the fit of this application, this software implementation, our ERP solution to our business will slowly start to degrade over time. And what we'll see is that in order to achieve the process improvements or the opportunities that the business wants to make, they might even start to move off system. They might start to go back to those spreadsheets. They might start to build their own applications on other software in some instances. However, if we are supporting them through that, if we've built a mechanism to understand those ideas, to harvest those ideas and start to incrementally improve the software as we go along, keep it current, keep it optimal for what the organization needs, then we've changed the organization actually. We've changed the culture of the organization. And if you think back to why did we implement this software in the first place, it's probably because our previous solution we'd allowed to degrade in terms of its ability to support the organization. So I think finally, we really need to treat this as a product, not a project. This is a new product. We're going to be using it for 5, 7, 10 years into the future. And in order to do that, we're going to need to update it, change it, tweak it to be continually optimal for our needs. So we really need to think about change as not a finite exercise. This is something that's continuous, it's a habit, and it's something that we should really enjoy and get good at. Okay, so why do I think the J-curve, the explanation of the J-curve, the visual representation that we've been looking at is important? And it's really more than just a way to describe that go live moment, the capability shock. It's really a way to start to engage the business with the size and complexity of the change that they're going to go through. And if I think back to when I first saw the J-curve, the reason that I was excited about it as a mechanism was for that communication. It was to start to describe how that moment can be difficult, how that capability shock can be significant. But really it was as a vehicle to start to have a wider conversation with the business that I was working with at the time about how what I really wanted was for us to treat this as a whole organizational change. And I mean, in some cases, I've seen organizations try to bring about like actually wholesale cultural change via a software implementation. But they didn't realize that that's what they were doing. You're asking people to work together in a way that they haven't done before. You're asking them to change the way that they work, appreciating things that they've never considered before. And understanding that, making that change, that's cultural change. And I mean, you know, as Drucker says, culture eats strategy for breakfast. You know, culture's the most difficult thing to change. And when it gets tough, and it will get tough in an ERP implementation, when there are bumps in the road where things don't go quite as planned, having brought about that cultural change, fostered relationships between what we tend to term the business and IT, and getting them to work cross-functionally and in a partnership, or even work together as one team. Those are fundamental cultural changes in an organization. We stop behaving as if the business is a customer and IT is a supplier. We start to work closely together, and we start to make decisions based on all of that information that we're finding, and we can solve complex problems together. And when we inevitably hit those bumps in the road, that cultural change, that fostering of this new relationship, those will help us to navigate those challenges more easily, more quickly, more effectively. And what we've got now is we've delivered something other than a software implementation. We've delivered a team, recognizing the opportunities and challenges that present themselves in their different capabilities and functionalities that can combine to make the best decisions for this organization going forward. And you know, when I think about value, obviously we're looking to deliver the value that the project was greenlit in the first place, but having that recognition, having that cohesiveness between people in your organization, that will last throughout. Well, it'll last longer than the software itself. You know, in 5, 10, 15 years, you might start to adopt new software. You'll upgrade your software, you'll change your software. But having that fundamental, having that understanding, and having it run top down, side to side, you know, throughout your organization, if you can achieve that is the value that will keep you going, keep you high performing, and keep you outperforming your competitors for a very long time. So we've achieved a higher level of capability in the organization. We're onto our new system, and this really is going to enable us to improve the way we work incrementally over the life cycle of this product adoption. And if this works really well, if we're getting good at making change, if change is becoming something this organization is used to, then what we should see is lots of little happy J-curve events throughout the life cycle of this product. And this is people coming with new ideas or new opportunities, and us implementing those opportunities into the software. We might go through a little bit of degraded capability as we adopt them, but then get that jump in capability quite quickly. And then what we're seeing is that we have like small shocks, not a big shock, but kind of exciting shocks. It's like we've grabbed some new capability, we've got some new functionality, I'm going to get to grips with that, and now I'm going to be able to do things that I couldn't do before. And once you get this appetite from the business for that, that's when you really start to stretch the legs of the software that you've bought. And there'll be new features, there'll be new opportunities, you'll be able to work more closely with the vendor, you'll be able to even push the roadmap of the product itself in order that it's really kind of optimal for what you need as an organization. So in this scenario, we're into happy J-curves and we're into incremental change. And really that's where you want to be as an organization.